Ever since the episode Nagi movie and his NEL arc Downfall, I have been meaning to do a Dragon Ball X Bluelock collab video on two duos, Goten and Trunks, especially from the Dragon Ball Super manga content mostly, and Blue arc from Z. From Bluelock we have the Nagi Reo duo, who was very well analyzed by a Bluelock YouTuber who will be helping me analyze them for the Bluelock half of this video. Everyone, without further ado, please welcome Serena Rosa.
Hello everyone, my name is Serena Rosa and I'm very excited to discuss and break down the theme of codependency for the Bluelock side of things, specifically one of the most dependent relationships we have seen in the Bluelock universe, which is Nagi and Reo. As Suki has mentioned, I have actually already done a whole video breaking down the theme of toxic codependency in Bluelock, and Nagi and Reo's dynamic was one of the main ones I explored. But I'm very excited to be a part of his video to do a closer and more in-depth look at these two. But first, I'll give a bit of background on these two characters.
So I will be analyzing Goten Trunks section of this video as a duo. Serena will do the same for Nagi and Reo. She will also define codependency since she was shown to be very good at understanding that topic. She will go into Nagi and Reo's codependency, and I'll do the same for Goten and Trunks. Then I'll go into their similarities and differences, with both of us giving our psychological takeaways from this topic and our last words. Before we really get into the video, I would like for you guys to like, comment, share, and subscribe to both of our channels, as it would help both of us reach algorithms we haven't reached yet. And join my Discord, as I just be chilling there, and if you want to chill with me, it'd be like that.
I'll specifically be using the background that we get in episode Nagi, since that's a more in-depth look at their dynamic. But in episode Nagi, we learned that Reo and Nagi went to the same high school, but before meeting each other, they both lived very different lives. Reo came from an extremely wealthy family, being one of the richest families in Japan. Reo, in this case, is used to getting everything that he wants, but his one dream and desire in this world is something that he cannot buy, which is to win the World Cup. That's where Nagi comes in. Nagi lives a pretty lazy life where he spends his days playing video games on his phone, doing as little as he can, and his one desire in life is a simple one: get a nice corporate job where he can make enough money without having to do too much work. On the surface, these two should have nothing in common, but soon their paths would cross when Reo would see how skilled Nagi is in sports and believes that he needs him in order to achieve his dream of winning the World Cup. Through this, Reo and Nagi would become close friends, where Reo would start to teach Nagi about the world of football, and they would eventually start to do matches against other high schools, where their skills would get recognized by a woman named Henri, Bluelock's project manager. And alas, that's how Nagi and Reo find themselves in the world of Bluelock.
So, starting off with Trunks, he is the son of the prince of less than 10 Saiyans, Vegeta, the third or fourth, and the richest and smartest woman in the world, Bulma Briefs. He was a baby throughout the Cell arc. Goten is the son of Kakarot and Chi-Chi after the Cell arc. Trunks beat Goten to win the Junior World Budokai Tenkaichi tournament. He learns the fusion technique with Goten, becomes Gotenks, tries to defeat Majin Buu but fails on two different occasions. They don't really do anything after getting absorbed by Buu in Dragon Ball Super. They don't even show up until the Battle of Gods arcs, where they use Gotenks to get spanked by Beerus. Oh yeah, and Trunks gains a crush on Mai in this arc. Trunks has a moment in the anime where he tells his future self to grow some balls in the Goku Black arc. They don't reappear until chapter 88, which is the prequel arc to Superhero, which has Trunks as the main character. I mean, they did it more, but like, who cares? They are superheroes taking down bad guys like how Gohan did back in the early stages of the Blue arc. By the way, Bulma, please tell Trunks what Mai's true age is. He is dating Dog Water, bro. He's gonna get deeper in that simp gooner hole, and I do not want him to fall for Dog Water. Please, bro, save, bro. He's in high school. Speaking of high school, he is known to be late for class. Trunks saves his friends against some ghoul wannabes. Basically, this arc was to take down Dr. Hito, which was quite a trip of simping and classic Toriyama goofiness. Prom getting crushed by the cops, and Goten and Trunks and Krillin teaming up to defeat the big bad Dr. Hito's robot. We see them help the others to take down Cell Max. This is because Trunks overheard Bulma and Piccolo's conversation in chapter 93. They start the streak of failed fusions in Super, which it was Trunks' fault, as even back in the Blue arc, for both the fat and the skinny versions, Trunks was the one who messed up. When he didn't do the fist for the fat fusion and for the skinny fusion, he forgot to yell, "Ha!" Yeah, we see the duo back at it with Spider-Man activities after the threat of Cell Max. They get fooled by Carmine to bring him to Gohan's house, and thanks to his huge key, Goku comes over and brings them all to Beerus' planet. They both get smoked by Gohan in a 2v1, which Trunks seemed to perform better in the duo. We also get information on why Goten and Trunks like Clean God and how they became the Great Saiyaman 1 and 2.
Now, for us to have a true understanding of codependency, we need to define it. The definition of codependency that we'll be going off of for this video is the excessive emotional or psychological reliance on a partner. And just to make it clear, there is a difference between a healthy dependence and codependency, since most humans at some point will have a healthy dependence on their friends, family, partner, or more. Since as humans, it's impossible for us to do everything on our own, and there will be times you need to depend on someone else for help, and that's a healthy and okay thing to do. But where this healthy dependence turns into codependency is where you no longer feel like you could operate on your own without the help of another person. You no longer are able to switch between dependence and independence because you are now overly relying on one person. And that's where I would say it becomes codependency. And this is definitely something we see in these two dynamics that we'll be discussing in today's video. So let's get into it. So let's first start with Reo and Nagi's codependency, since from their backstory you can already see the foundations of a codependent dynamic being formed between them before they've even entered into Bluelock. And this is through Reo's dream of winning the World Cup. Reo believes that he needs Nagi in order to achieve this dream, that Nagi is a prodigy that he discovered and quote-unquote belongs to him. And yes, this is wording we see Reo use later on in the manga to describe Nagi. But even early on, it's clear that Reo is putting unrealistic expectations onto Nagi and creating this codependency between them. Since when you understand that Reo believes that Nagi is the only way he could win the World Cup someday, you understand why Reo and Nagi's friendship feels so intense throughout the manga, in both the main series and the spin-off. Since one of the first times we see this intensity and just how extreme their codependency is would be during the second selection. After moving on from the first selection, the second selection would be about forming a team of 3. Immediately, Reo and Nagi would say they want to form a team, which makes sense since they are the closest to each other in Bluelock and work well together. But needing one more person, Nagi would want Izuki to join them as he created both a fire and interest for Nagi after losing to him in the first selection. But when Izuki would deny Nagi's offer to join Bachida, his own dependent dynamic, we would see Nagi make a not-so-great friend move and decide to leave Reo's team so he could pair off with Izuki and Bachida. These actions would of course be hurtful to Reo since he has given everything from his ego and dreams to Nagi, and because of this, Reo feels like he's being completely abandoned by Nagi at this moment. Since I've seen criticism for this moment even back in the regular series of the manga that just feels too dramatic, since Nagi is just trying to grow in this moment and he's simply just picking a path that would be better for his own growth. And as his friend, Reo should be more supportive of that decision. But with the perspective that Nagi and Reo are already extremely codependent, specifically Reo at this point in the story, it gives you a better understanding of why Reo would have this reaction. Nagi is holding his dream. Nagi is what he discovered, and at this point, Nagi is what is fueling Reo's ego. So in this moment, it feels so dramatic because Reo is essentially losing everything by Nagi leaving him for another team. And that point forward, we see Reo go down a pretty self-destructive path until he eventually realizes that he has to fight for himself and he has to be enough to achieve his own dreams. But a true codependent relationship cannot be one that's one-sided. both parties have to be excessive in the way that they depend on each other. So let's get into Nagi. Well, after the second selection, we would overall see Reo and Nagi going down their own paths, with both having amazing moments like Reo discovering his chameleon ability and Nagi's world introducing goal in the Bluelock 11 versus U20 Japan match. The truth about a lot of codependent relationships is that they do not have a perfect story where you hit your rock bottom and choose to do better. They are considered unhealthy for a reason, since they are often a repetitive cycle, and we definitely see this being the case with these two in the NEL arc. Nagi and Reo would find themselves once again on the same team, with both being on Manshine, but while Reo would at first be determined to continue fighting on his own, we would see Nagi fall back into old habits. Nagi, who always wants to live the easier and more simple life, realizes that if he teams up with Reo in the NEL, then Reo can do all the thinking for him and he could just have an easier time in matches. And this isn't the right thing to do, since it would be hurting Nagi's development as a player, and it would be hurting Reo's personal development of wanting to be more independent. But we see Nagi not caring about this and deciding to pair back up with Reo, and this would eventually lead to both their downfalls in the arc, with Reo almost getting eliminated from the project, while Nagi would end up getting eliminated. And through this, Nagi and Reo would finally take a step back from their friendship, with Reo being the one to set a boundary and to stop contact with Nagi after the NEL. And as for what this all means, I'll give my final takeaway thoughts in the next segment.
Goten and Trunks' codependency. Being childhood friends, thanks to their parents, they were bound to have similar upbringings, but because Trunks had a father to train him, he was stronger than Goten. So now it begs the question, when and why did Goten and Trunks become so codependent? So before chapter 480, they did really rely on each other for fun and stuff, but they were still shown to have their own ideologies and differences, especially how they handled their fights in the tournament, with Trunks being quick and disrespectful and Goten letting his opponents have a shot at him but being respectful at the same time. The fusion gave them so much power that they saw it as the best way to fight any villain. The worst part, they got their strongest power against the worst, greatest threat the Z fighters had ever fought at this point, being Majin Buu. This is basically a dog gone reaching a power he was not yet ready for. This is indirectly Goku's fault for trying to win back the method of entrusting the earth to the young ones. However, this one was truly a mistake, as both Goten and Trunks were not even 10 years old and had never even had a serious fight in the whole franchise yet. This was their first big battle. They lived in peace for nearly their whole lives. Then some big bad universal buster comes in and basically the fate of the whole universe is left in their hands. Yeah, this is like Ben 10. They aren't going to take it seriously. They will have a lot of fun with it. So giving them fusion is like giving Ben the Omnitrix. It's bound to lead them to abusing their power of what they were given. Lastly, they don't have Goku and Vegeta training them seriously, since their parents are always off training, especially in Super where they're off on different planets training. Goten and Trunks, even if they do train, they never have to go through serious training due to the fact that they're in times of peace, and in their mindset, they just believe they can make up for it in the battle because of Gotenks. It gets so bad in Resurrection of F, they needed Gotenks to take down one of Frieza's men, who shouldn't even be able to rival a Super Saiyan once they defuse. That's just it. They can't do anything. I'm not even going to talk about the Copy Vegeta arc. Another thing is that because they are so young, Goten never really had an ideology because of Chi-Chi just trying to enforce books into him. So now he just follows the most entertaining thing in his life, being Trunks. So now he is always dependent on him being outside of battle, but now in battle too. The same isn't for Trunks. He has a love interest for Mai. However, he is also codependent for Goten, as he needs a bro who plays the same games and someone who has similar interests to him, being Goten. Most likely because Trunks exposed him to that lifestyle anyways. The only time we have seen them not team up together is against low fighters, but they might still be in the same area. They dealt with them in their own on their mini arc. But once things get above their level they can't reach, they don't push for a new awakening or anything like the other Saiyans. but instead they rely on Gotenks because they haven't got proper training from their parents and they don't have the same ideology to push for further strength. They just use flashy tag team moves that slow down their efficiency in a fight. The worst part, Gotenks in the manga has as many wins as Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken. Whoa, that's a whole lot of talking, so I'm gonna turn things over to Madame Serena. Similarities, upbringings. Both duos had a rich person in their pair being Reo and Trunks, and a not rich person being Nagi and Goten. Followers. Both Goten and Nagi are characters that don't really have much texture to their characterization without the help of Reo and Trunks, who are the shining lights that Goten and Nagi follow to accomplish their goals. Something meaningful as they both find their best moments from those cherished friendships. Like for Goten, he follows Trunks' ideals all the time, and Nagi does the same with Reo until the second selection. Both talented learners, Trunks and Reo, discovered the worth in the geniuses and brought out the best in them. 3. Cheating. Both these relationships have some form of cheating, as both Trunks and Nagi would leave their partners, Goten and Reo, for Isagi and Mai. But Nagi is worse, as he will leave Reo for anyone who will give him what he wants. Number 4. Prodigy / hardworking. Both of these duos have prodigies and hard workers. Nagi and Goten are the prodigies. They both barely had any training but reached greater heights in their power and skills without much effort needed for Goten to reach Super Saiyan at age 7. For Nagi, it's him being better than 70% of the Bluelockers, which is a 300 in total. Team-ups. Both Trunks and Reo are talented learners, meaning they are the strategists, so they are the ones usually making the game plans, and the geniuses Nagi and Goten just follow along with it. Differences. Superiority. In Nagi and Reo's relationship, they both have had their moments growing on their own without the other person, which shows when needed they can both fight on their own. For Goten and Trunks, because the codependency is both of them equally relying on each other and not being trained properly, so we have the situation where both of them are holding each other back, unlike Nagi Reo, where it was just Nagi holding Reo back. Age difference. For Nagi and Reo, it's the genius who is older than the talented learner, as Nagi is older than him by May 6th at the age of 18. Meanwhile, Reo was born on August 12th, who is still 17 currently. For Trunks, he is the talented learner who is older than Goten because he is 17 years old, and Goten is the genius who is 16 years old. Emotional damage. So Goten and Trunks never had like a breakup or a bad seed in their relationship in their arcs, since their friendship was enforced, so they have the same interests, and if things go wrong, they don't have emotional damage towards each other because of it. For Nagi and Reo, Isagi said it himself, it's like a teen drama power relationship. Their relationship only existed because Nagi was surprisingly good at soccer. They have had 2 major breakups, being the second selection and the U20 World Cup. We have been shown multiple times that this duo just simply doesn't work. It's like me and 95% of blondes, to be honest. I like them for their cool hair color and not their personality. Narrative importance. Nagi and Reo are very important characters to the story. They can be considered main characters, especially with the fact that Nagi has a whole spin-off dedicated to him. Before Superhero, Goten and Trunks were pretty much secondary characters, maybe even tertiary characters. Hopefully, as the story progresses, they may lean more into main characters, because right now Goku and Vegeta are the key figures. They are actually tertiary characters, which means third tier characters, as Gohan and Piccolo are the secondary characters, who level up to main characters when Goku and Vegeta are out of the picture. Motivation. Nagi and Reo want different things until chapter 312 of Bluelock. Meanwhile, Goten and Trunks always shared similar interests.
Now that you've heard some of the similarities and differences between these two dynamics, I would like to give my takeaway thoughts about Reo and Nagi. Their dynamic was unfortunately set up in a way that would not have a quick resolution for the story, but is realistic for a dynamic that got as dependent as theirs did. As Suki has discussed, there is hope that their relationship will eventually get better and find a place of healthiness similar to another dynamic, which is Izuki and Bashida, but there is still quite a journey to get there. I think them currently having their own space right now is the best thing that could happen for them, since they're both being motivated by their own goals right now and achieving them. Since for Nagi, right now currently in the story, it would be entering B-side with the hopes of joining Bluelock, and for Reo, it's scoring his own goals like he did in the Nigeria match to prove that he can fight on his own, While things might not be perfect right now, these two will eventually need to have a real conversation, but at least they're on the right path. And only time will tell, once they're on the same team again, if they'll be able to break the cycle of codependency and find themselves once and for all. Alright, you guys, that's the end of my portion of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed and got a better understanding of codependency through the Reo and Nagi dynamic. Shout out to Suki for inviting me to his channel, and please let us know your thoughts in the comments. Bye!
Now for my final thoughts, for Nagi and Reo, I don't know what the future holds up for them, but I think like Bachira and Isagi, where they need to find balance is by working with each other to get goals, but also using their talents to get their own goal, and using their other teammates for goals too. They need to evolve on their own, and they can come together once in a while like how they did versus Bastard Muchin. The problem is if they fall under the same illusion of constantly relying on each other to team up every single time, that's where they will have their same problem they had in the NEL. For Goten and Trunks, I don't know if they will play a role in the Black Frieza arc, with the Saiyans excluding Broly returning to Earth and Goku and Vegeta seeing the current fighting struggles of their kids in person. Maybe this will encourage them to finally train their kids properly and make them independent fighters. I think Toyotaro is intentionally making them fail fusion, especially being Trunks, who's the one who fails the fusion, and I hope he plans to properly develop them into fighters who can hold their own against villains without fusion, and only use Gotenks when absolutely necessary, and not just a trump card in every single battle, because they couldn't lock in and fumble the fight. Both duos can rely on their ultimate link-ups, but they need to learn how to have perfect balance between fighting individually and as teammates. Using both of these in their respective stages will help them awaken to further heights and awakenings. I would really like to see Goten become more of a character than just Trunks' sidekick, with Goku having Ultra Instinct, Vegeta having Ultra Ego, Broly having Legendary Super Saiyan, Gohan with Beast, and even Piccolo looking orange now. It would be cool if Goten and Trunks got Super Saiyan 4 or their own form. I want to thank Madam Serena for finally pulling up to the channel. I've been trying to get her since 2023, my inspiration right there. You go, Black Sister. And now it finally happened. God bless. Anyway, God is good. Stay blessed. Suki out.